I want to apologize on behalf of my country to those members of the world community who must be staring at us and wondering, what are they doing? What are they doing in countries that have had revolution and carnage and tumult and upheaval and just a variety of horrid events? People in this country are besides themselves. They're unable to deal with this very fact that what's happening here is nothing more than a group of childish babies fueled by social media and an equally babyfied and juvenescent mainstream media who have been lulled into a sense of complacency and told that it is okay for you to rally and scream and yell regarding a man whom I guess basically you just don't like. You don't like anything about his particular position or platform because he really hasn't enunciated anything like that. You know nothing at all about what he wants to do. You know nothing at all about his, really much of anything. But the people who do know what he has said, those individuals comprising middle America and the working class, and those who have seen factories shuttered and dreams destroyed, they vote for him and connect with this man, and you don't understand it because you don't see it. And then you have the people who are allegedly his folks, his acolytes and apostles, who only like Trump because basically they view him as the conservative. And I don't think he really is. I mean, he might be a Republican. He might certainly espouse more prototypical conservative views than others, but he's an anomaly. That's why I like him. I like him because he basically annoys everyone. And then nobody can really lay any claim to him. That's a great sign. I mean, just think about this, and you ask yourself this question. Just look at us. Look at how we have lost our minds. And yet, and this is the most important thing, when you step back from this and you go to the real world, you go to middle America or just regular America, plain old America, people who work and people who are concerned with far more mundane things than this. They don't know who Steve Bannon is. I mean, just think about this. Do you know how out of touch mainstream media are when they list, in terms of headlines, Steve Bannon and his tenure with Breitbart? Or they dust off this hoary and decrepit suggestion that he is anti-Semitic based upon what was said, what was stated, what was uttered during a contested divorce decree or divorce proceeding. I mean, do you not marvel at what I'm seeing here? Where do they hope to reach middle America? Where do they hope to meet America? Hollywood's not doing it. Starbucks now really making another, yet again, this misapplied focus on a group of people that they believe is their audience. Now, ultimately speaking, they could say, well, you don't understand. We've done market research, and those individuals who tend to frequent our stores and our product are those individuals who tend to agree with this particular way of thinking politically and would be moved by our involvement in a anti-Trump or more of a globalist move or position. And I'm thinking to myself, are you sure about that? You have Starbucks in Mississippi in the South and the Rust Belt, and really? Are you sure about this? See, it goes to show you how, this is really important for you to realize, you have to kind of pull yourself back from the world and understand how a lot of people feel. See, that's the thing. Years ago, as an example, I'll never forget, I had a program director. We were talking about professional wrestling one day, and it was one of those days where everything was clicking. I mean, people were just absolutely in love with this idea, this discussion of professional wrestling. I'm more of an NWA guy from the 60s and 70s, but people from around the country had their own particular circuit. This is pre-Vince, pre-WWF, and then WWE, and pre-WWF with Vince Sr. But everybody had their own recollection, their own idea. And I'll never forget, this program director came to me with a very serious, very straight face and said, nobody cares about wrestling. Nobody connects with wrestling. Nobody connects with wrestling. Nobody. And I just didn't know what to say. I didn't even know how to react. I thought, oh my God. You might not know this, but especially for those, because this, Lionel Nation here, we're all over the world. When Dale Earnhardt died in that collision, Dale Earnhardt was the heart, the soul, the signature of NASCAR. And when he died, it was the day the music died. It was the Big Bopper and Lennon, and I mean, it was everybody. And I was just so moved by how many people were moved and affected by his life and his passing. Okay. I know people in the business who look back and say they didn't understand what is he, Dale Earnhardt, who? Okay. Let me stop right there and let me try to give you this particular valuable lesson, especially if you are in any way involved in anything. Who is your market? Who is your targeted audience? Who? Whatever it is that you're trying to do. Whether you're trying to court someone or whether you're trying to get a job, or who is your audience? Who are the people? If you can't answer that, then you're out of luck. I don't care what you think. I don't care what your worldview is. I don't care. It means nothing. During the course of this, I'm bumping the table. During the course of my various disquisitions with and to and at you, I received some, for the most part, some great email, great comments, and then some others who are just absolutely disconnected. And the one that we must shelve is to call somebody a liberal or a conservative and then move on, as though, I've cinched this noose, so to speak. I've caught you. I've labeled you. And now all discussion can stop because I've called you a conservative or a liberal, and that's it. I've used it as a pejorative, and I'm moving on. And we've got to stop this. My friends, it doesn't matter what I think, what I believe. I've told you this a million times. I am so fascinated every day, not by anything Donald Trump does, but by the mainstream media. My sole focus has been, almost without fail, the overreaction of the media, the underreaction of the media to issues that really count, and how a group of people who fancy themselves or call themselves the left, they're called the left. They are not the left. Let's talk about this case involving the Supreme Court. And let's see if we can try something also. This is maybe as part of my message to alternative left fake news folks. Understand what someone thinks and recognize the fact that it is not in any way wrong per se. When Neil Gorsuch was up, people were talking about the Hobby Lobby case. Hobby Lobby and the Sisters of Mercy, Charity, whatever that other one was. Here's the story. Here's the issue. And this is also great for our friends around the world who need to know this. If you are let's say a closely held corporation, a family corporate or a corporation, but not, GM or Monsanto, but something smaller. And you are devout Christians, or your faith provides that you are adamantly opposed to abortion. You think it's wrong, you think it's murder, you think it's just not acceptable in any way whatsoever. And you object to your company's insurance plan paying for abortion or contraception or whatever it is. Let's just make it easy. Abortion. Should you have the right to say, under the Affordable Care Act or whatever, should you have the right in general to interpose your objection? Now, the answer is yes. The question is not, well, what kind of religion is it? I mean, yeah, I could make something up, but there is no such thing as a hierarchy of religion. As far as I'm concerned, religion is one's the same as the other. And the First Amendment has two provisions, the Free Exercise Clause and the Establishment Clause. And the Free Exercise Clause basically prevents Congress or the states through the 14th Amendment to impede upon, to interrupt, to interfere with, to obfuscate, to confuse, to in any way interfere with your freely exercising your faith. I believe in that 100%. I believe in your right to religion more than anything else, and I am irreligious. It's something that to me does not mean anything personally. The Constitution does, and the First Amendment does, the most important. And it is a part of our rules. Our rules that under the First Amendment you have the absolute unfettered right to exercise your religion within reason. And we can argue what's not within reason. There were cases in law school we used to read about snake handling cases. Snake handling. That was a big problem, I guess, in the old days. Is that valid? I think it is. Like I said, I think religions are just as nutty as the other. How you consider, say, Scientology? No, that's not a religion. Presbyterian? Yeah, that's a religion. What? Why? Well, there is no such thing. Let me back up. Let me reiterate. Let me perorate. Let me asseverate. Let me remind you. We, all of us, we abide by this thing called the Constitution. And Nino Scalia, be damned, there's a lot we can say about it. And one of the things that's so critical about it is that we don't differentiate one religion from another. We don't sit there and say, well, you can do this, but not that. Now, what happens is, in this country, we also cannot separate our own viewpoint from that of the law. Let me give you an example. I am personally against the death penalty. I am against it. If I ever had the chance to abolish it, I would do it. However, I'm probably not going to be given that chance anytime soon. But if I were a judge, or could I be a judge, if I had to possibly one day sentence somebody to death, if that was a recommendation of the jury in a fair trial, the answer is yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely positively abhor the notion of abortion, but maintain that it absolutely, again using that term, must be maintained. Reproductive rights and reproductive liberties must be unfettered. How can you do that one? See, that's called having two different opinions simultaneously coexisting. Like two overlapping, non-overlapping magisteria, as a great Stephen Jay Gould said about science and faith. We have to look at the law, at issues almost scientifically, almost detached from emotion, but we can today because America is all emotion. All 13 days into the 13 days into the election, and in your acting like this is the end of the world, or you're losing your mind. What are you going to do a year into this, 2 years into this? This is a 4-year term. What are you going to do? It's very unseemly. You see, we have problems that nobody will address, and they do not fall within this conservative liberal ideology. I have people who fancy themselves. It's funny. I'm thinking to myself, when Trump mentioned his concern over vaccines, perhaps being connected in some way to autism, I thought, this is fantastic. I mean, my heart leapt because, first of all, any kind of intellectual exercise and foray should be encouraged. Any kind. Whatever the reason, whatever the cost, whether it's about 9/11 or GMOs or Obama's birth certificate, anything you want. Anything. Ask away. There's no such thing as going to be turned. We're actually having people told they can't ask questions, both on the left and the right. The right wing didn't like, and I use these terms just for shorthand purposes, the right wing didn't like any of these questions being asked because it tended to embarrass George Bush during that whole thing. You never talk about 9/11 because that was Bush's baby and Bush's watch. But now that Obama's in, no, maybe they'll talk about other stuff. Why are we at war? Why is this president at war for every day of his 8 years? You didn't care about that before because politics is personal. There's no independent, objective, scientific, codified version of inquiry at all. It's a matter of my guy, my side, that's it. I don't like Trump. So whatever Trump says, I'm against him. Anybody he nominates, any position he has, I won't even say I agree with him. I won't even say. Recently, there was a particular piece of legislation or something which he agreed to maintain. It was regarding LGBT rights or something like that. And nobody could even say good. They couldn't say good for you. Good. Good. They couldn't do this. I would love one day, if there would be a president who one day said, I'm going to open up a permanent kind of like a SART or a Russell tribunal, an unending permanent subcommittee reinvestigating, reacquainting ourselves with the issues of 9/11, my heart would sink. I would feel like I've died and gone to heaven. That this country's finally addressing one of the most ridiculous stories and official stories that anybody has ever heard. Left, right, I don't care. We're getting closer to that. We're getting closer to that. I want someone, somewhere, some politician, to find out, to have a committee about what we are doing. We are subsidizing, we are encouraging, we are actually tampering with food through GMOs. Food. And there's a hands-off attitude. Thanks to Big Agri, Monsanto, Dow, Bayer, all the biggies. Hands off. Don't go there. Don't ask questions. Don't investigate this. Don't talk about this. We don't want to hear anything about that. Be quiet. I want to talk about geoengineering. I want to talk about geoengineering, as you would call them. Chemtrails, but still. Nanoparticulates. Aerosolized. Dispersal. Solar radiation management. Host of issues. The public needs to hear about this. If I heard somebody speak about that, I would absolutely go berserk. Berserk. This country has to stop being afraid of asking questions. And the first thing we have to do is get rid of the sides. Destroy the parties. Destroy them. They mean nothing. They do nothing. They separate us. They separate us for no particular reason. They cause they prevent unity. Let me give you an example. If I had a prison and I was worried about the prisoners, let's say I was the warden, the prisoners ever really taking over or getting out of control or becoming too serious with their grievances or whatever you want to, however you want to phrase it. A way to get around that, what I would do is I would have these individuals, seriously, I would have them divided into like 2 different groups or 3 different groups, like parties, so that they would turn on themselves. They wouldn't join forces. See, parties artificially create division among the people. God forbid we ever solidified our movements and codified and unified and forged our disparate views collectively against the government. Oh my God, it'd be a riot. It would be the worst thing ever. It'd be a revolution. But they don't want that. So what they do is they actively encourage infighting among whites and blacks, and Black Lives Matter. This is where Soros comes in. Always to destabilize, always to fracture, always to cause problems. Why? Because ultimately, it is the goal of globalists and others alike to break apart the world, to shatter it into individual states, lap states, rump states, fallen states, territories, provinces. No unanimity, no nothing, no cohesion. Easier to control. I want there to be complete fractious disenchantment. I want there to be a collective confusion as to who's in charge. I want there to be dissension. I want there to be serious, serious problems. That's why I want there to be women's marches. I want them upset. Black Lives Matter. This is Soros. This is he did it with Outpour. He did it with the Tulip Revolution, with the Rose Revolution, Arab Spring, Outpour. This is so. I want a country where we can talk about these things and people can say, okay. I also want a European flavor. To my European friends who have seen the product of tumult, who have seen each of their respective countries in revolution, and I mean World War II, you were the epicenter. Your worldview is so different than ours. Ours is very protected, very detached, very, very, kept quiet and safe and innocent. We're protected, by borders, and we're kind of, we're sort of, what's the word? We're just kept from this. We're protected and grounded from any real concern. These are the things which are so incredibly horrible for me. This will be the end of our civilization. Our ignorance. And I know it sounds a bit much, but the fact we don't know anything. So going back to what I said originally, we right now have the most base political system there is. We have people who actually foment and forge and promote dissension, fractionalize, breakup. Remember, that's what Soros and others want. They want there to be no unity. Blacks and whites and harmony and kumbaya and we are the world and I like to teach the world to sing and all that stuff. No. The more the merrier. I want Trump marches. I want abortion marches. I want marches against Gorsuch. I want Gorsuch for women. And these these vague and these strange, intellectually absentee pussy hats and whatever. I don't even know what the hell that's about. There was a story I was reading today about how there was either in India or someplace, women, young girls forced into marriages, which is rape. This is child sexual abuse is what it is. Okay, and I'm thinking, why aren't we talking about this? Female circumcision, which is really female genital mutilation. Go down the list. Let me repeat back up for a moment. We have to stop this. We have to stop this. If your idea of politics, if your idea of getting involved is hating Trump, getting online every day and just hating him, copying and posting and talking to your friends and taking everything from HuffPo and Daily Kos and all this stuff and posting this drivel, not even reading the story. Oftentimes the headlines have nothing to do with the story. We are doomed as a civilization if you do that. I'm not vouching for everything that Trump does. I'm not saying that. I never did. I told you. I don't like his view on torture, which apparently he's abandoned because Mad Dog Mattis even disagrees. Torture's no good. You got to close Gitmo. It's ridiculous. How long do you keep people for? How many years? You think that their operational knowledge of ISIS or Al-Qaeda 10 years into this is any good? Come on, stop it. We have to stop war. We have to stop this. We have to level with the American people. And let me tell you, ultimately, let me just get down to brass tacks. This is what will save us. The only thing that will save us. When we have a country that is so smart and so unified and so solidified by this common sense of, I mean, have dissent, have differences. It's okay. You don't have to have this voting block. I understand that. But when we have people who are able to come together and scare the hell out of populations, governments, that's my dream. That's my dream. It's my simple dream, to scare the hell out of governments. I want them to look out the window of the White House and think, maybe we should put garbage trucks around here or filled with sand. Why? Because these people, you know how they act. You know how they get when they're unhappy. In Paris, if you had tried to hit these students with a $50,000 plus a year tuition schedule, you would have rioting the likes of which you could not imagine. It would have never happened, because they are so afraid and so intimidated by their citizens. Not here, not our country, not at all. They don't worry about you. They're not afraid of you in the least. It's the other way around, and that's not good. So this has to end now. Now, Trump's almost a separate issue. It's almost doesn't really matter, because what he's going to do, we're going to hold him accountable. But the first thing that we have to do, you and me, is get together and just push mainstream media aside. And let's focus on what's really happening. And when it comes to issues like Neil Gorsuch and the Supreme Court, you have before you on YouTube, go ahead and just learn about how this thing works. Watch. You've got, I hope, some kind of computer set up at your home. Instead of watching some stupid TV show at night, watch a documentary, watch a YouTube on the history of the Supreme Court. Read about the classics. Read about, who was it, Rutledge, who was, I think, he had his shortest tenure ever. He was selected during a recess vote, and they were scared because he was an alcoholic and he was crazy, and they eventually did not want him. I think Justice Story was the youngest at 32. Oliver Wendell Holmes was 90. The stories, the history is so rich. And what Tolstoy said, and I remind you again, history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true, but it is so monumentally important and critical, and without the risk of being redundant or excessive, for you to understand the issues. You can't sit back anymore and turn on the TV or the iPad or whatever and think that CNN is legit anymore, or that MSNBC, that they're legit. They're not. When I tell you this, they are absolutely not. Do you understand that? Do you understand me? Do you understand how critical that is? They are not legit. They are not our friends. They are not here to help us. They are, sad to say, the enemy. And I'm so sorry to say that. I am so incredibly sorry to say that, but it's true. So here's what you're going to do. Remember, number one, immediately reject all mainstream media. Number two, spend a day starting off using the internet to ask yourself questions. And by the way, there's a trick. Whenever you're searching for something, rather than ask a question, put it in the form of a statement. If you should write, should Neil Gorsuch be confirmed, type in, he should not be confirmed. He should be confirmed. See what comes up. Look at the seemingly endless contributions, opinions, facts, blogs, platforms. Not this nonsense, not this fake propagandist alt-left fake news nonsense, this anti-Trump bulwark. I've said enough, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you, of course, like the particular video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, as it were, and always comment as you see fit.